Vulnerable to Victorious series. At this time, I'm going to hand over to Reverend O'Connell, who's going to introduce our guest speakers for this evening.
Thank you, Jackie. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of Vulnerable to Victorious. I am happy to see everybody who has joined us and those who have signed up to join us. We want to give a special thanks to Panya Wright, who has embraced this whole idea and is giving us support through Zoom, as well as ensuring that people get communication during the week. And Panya, thank you. If you have the ability with Zoom to give her applause, just give her some applause right now. Okay. I'm going to pray and then I'm going to introduce our speakers again. Let us pray. Oh God, when our world is chaotic, when we don't know what is going to come next, when life seems so overwhelming and we feel as if we're going to drown, we want to thank you that the way you have made us and the way you have made your creation, there are possibilities and alternatives to lead us to health and to wholeness and to wellness. And as we come to learn and to grow, we ask you to bless our gathering, bless our learning, bless our fellowship with each other. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So welcome again to week 2, and we're delighted that from Anxiety Global, Jennifer Wilson and Beth Tuttle are helping us to discover new ways of managing something which is common for all human beings. I found myself liking my fingers this week. I just was always pulling and touching. Usually before I preach, I shake down at the bottom, but I found I was shaking a little more and just trying to work through how to get myself ready. And I don't know what other people did during the week, but every time you you learn a new technique, you find that it offers possibilities just to get through something which intimidates you or makes you anxious. And so let's welcome Jennifer and Beth and thank them for leading us. They are, through the courtesy of Zoom, not just in Michigan, but they're right here in New York. So welcome them, and we turn the meeting over to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend O'Connor. You know, it's not quite the same as actually being in New York. So I think we're missing out, but we'll deal with it. I wanted to just quick give a recap of what we talked about last week. Again, with Anxiety Global and our education platform, we really want to teach practical tools and things that you can use to reduce anxiety both quickly and effectively. So last week, if you weren't able to join us, or just a reminder, we talked about having an awareness of how often as humans that we're actually holding our breath. And then Beth showed us all how we could do a proper breath with the belly breathing. And then the finger pull and the tapping is just another option to put that connection of mind and body together to quickly lower blood pressure, to quickly just bring you back into your heart center. And then we had some fun with just, you know, shaking your body, just like an animal does after a tense moment, you know, just a quick shake out, and just how important physical movement is to bringing us back into the awareness of our mind and our body and that connection, so that we really can live much less stressful, much less anxious lives. So we're going to continue that tonight, and we're going to show you the last of our what we call our 7 methods to reducing anxiety. Tonight we're going to talk about meditation, and we're going to talk about journaling, and then inputting positivity. So these are all very practical things. And next week, we're going to bring Kimberly Fitton in, and I think I saw her. I think she joined us here tonight as well. And we're going to take these very practical tools that Beth and I have taught last week and this week, and really bring it together to guarding your heart and mind in a more spiritual and inspirational way, because that is Kimberly's specialty. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. So when I looked at this week's theme that is chosen, which is how do I fight to be whole and healthy in a time of stress, fear, and anxiety, I thought so much about how these practical tools that we teach are really the preparation. The word warrior keeps coming to mind. And when we're quieting our mind and we're doing these really practical, quiet, time-centered actions, we're really preparing for battle in so many ways. So I thought that was just a great connection to what we're teaching is really that first self-preparation to be that warrior, to fight against all of the anxiety that we're being faced with in the world right now. And one more thing before I let Beth talk a little bit about meditation, I want to just do one more shout out for the book that's part of this whole series that Jackie and the whole Myrtle team has put together, Overcoming Fear and Anxiety Through Spiritual Warfare. And I know the author is doing some video work for the church, and that's just wonderful. I read a ton on anxiety. I love this book. It's just a really good book. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth.
Okay, so tonight, Jen said one of the things we're going to talk about is meditation. So I'm sure many of you have heard the term, have tried meditation. And whenever I speak to groups about meditation, I always say, let's first talk about the myths of meditation. So most of the time people will say, well, it doesn't work. So first of all, it is science-backed now, and there is so much research. If you guys got off and just Googled the research behind meditation, it's something that seems so simple, but it literally will boost your immune system, reduce stress, increase your memory. It can help with chronic pain. I mean, there's numerous things to back that up. And the other thing people will say is it takes too long. So when you think about meditation, a lot of people will think, well, I don't have 30 minutes or I don't have an hour to meditate. But that is a myth. It doesn't take that long. You can actually do it in a few minutes, and Jen in a while will walk you through a meditation that you'll see it'll take less than 5 minutes. So it doesn't have to take a long time. And there's not a certain way that you have to sit. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You don't have to be chanting anything. You could be sitting, you could be laying, you could be standing. That doesn't matter. The biggest one, I think, is people will say, I can't quiet my mind. It's impossible to quiet my mind. Well, that's not what meditation really is. It's not to sit and have your mind be blank. We're humans, and it's not possible. There's always going to be things coming into our mind, whether it's something from the past or worried about something that's going to be coming up in your future. All meditation is finding a space where you're quiet, you're sitting there, you're actually letting the thoughts come in. You're just not attaching to the thoughts. So if a thought would come in that maybe it's around your health or finances, don't attach yourself. Well, then you let your mind run wild with it of all the things that could go wrong with it or how you're going to solve it. Just notice the thought, let the thought come in, and then let it pass right through. That's really all it is. It's taking a few minutes to quiet your mind. If you think about it, most of us in a day don't stop for 10 minutes in a day where we're not at least looking at our phones, our computers, on the phone, watching TV, on your tablet, listening to the radio. There's always something going on. It's a really on world where all this technology is always at our fingertips. So if you think about it, we don't take that time to just just be quiet. And if we want that mental fitness that me and Jen talk about, we have to make that time to quiet our mind, whether it's, like I said, Jen will walk you through one. We'll show you that. And there's many other ways which we'll talk about as we go through tonight.
Yeah, one of the things I first wanted to talk about was, I'm sure many of you experience headaches. It's a pretty common thing for humans to get the headaches. And one of the things that we talked about last week and how the tapping works is it slows down, it sends a message to the amygdala that's back here, where all of a sudden when you get into fight or flight mode, the blood leaves your forebrain. So this is where we start to get a headache, because the blood has rushed back to the amygdala because it's deciding, okay, do we run or do we fight? Do we fight or do we flight? We don't really need to do that with most of our common stresses. So all of a sudden that blood left our forehead so quickly that now we might have that headache. So even if you don't have a headache, when we think about obsessive thoughts and anxious thoughts, that's the repeat, right? When we start worrying about our finances, remember we talked about the root causes being health and finances and relationships. When all of that, we can't shut it off. One of the best things to do is to actually put some pressure to your forehead, not a heavy amount of pressure, but just, it's almost like you're soothing a baby, right? So you just stick that pressure there. If you tend to be a warm-blooded person, run your hands over some cool water and just rest there for a moment. If you're always cold like me, warm your hands up first and just put some heat there. And Beth does a lot work with acupressure.
Yeah, so basically we have a lot of neurovascular points all throughout our head. So you'll notice a lot of times when maybe you're stressed or other people are stressed, they will literally grab their forehead. They'll be holding their forehead, because our body intuitively knows that when we grab our forehead, like Jen said, that's going to bring the blood back to our forebrain. Because when we're stressed, it is leaving the brain, like Jen said. It's setting off that amygdala, that alarm in our brain, and it's going to our limbs, our arms and legs, remember, because it thinks we need to run or fight back. So by just placing your hand on your head like that and bringing that blood back, if you are someone who suffers with headaches, I'll have people, a lot of times I'll tell them, if they're just laying in bed, or you could be sitting here, but your arm will get tired, to hold that for a minute or two, even up to 3 minutes, and just let you, eventually you actually feel a pulsing. If you start doing it, you'll actually feel a calm pulsing. And that's just telling you that blood is back there, and that will relax your whole body, bring you clarity. So yeah, that's an easy way. Like Jen said, you can either just the fingertips or literally placing your whole hand across your forehead.
And so oftentimes I will always start my meditation with my hands just, okay, shut off, shut off brain. Because if you struggle with anxiety, it's just, you get to these moments where you just want your brain to just shut off. So sometimes I'll start there. Sometimes when I'm in prayer, I'll actually stick my hand and put some pressure here so that I can just, again, signal to my brain to be quiet. We're going to focus on something else or nothing for a minute. One of the meditations I'm going to take everyone through here tonight is a really neutral, easy, simple meditation. The reason I like this one is because you can do it anywhere. You can teach children how to do it. And Beth and I actually have some business clients who use this in the boardroom, because it's so easy that anybody who's facilitating the meeting can actually bring everybody into the meditation. And why I really enjoy this for this teaching is that sometimes this is true. You'll sit down for Bible study. You'll sit down for your quiet time, and you have what you always do, and your mind's not in it, and you're trying. And how many times will you reread that? And you just can't. You haven't done anything to calm down before you start. And so this ritual that works for you most of the time, when a lot of other things are going on and you need it most, you find that it's not working. So taking just a few minutes to do some of the exercise we talked about last week, or possibly this meditation that I'm going to take you all through, just to kind of center yourself, so then you're really present as you move into that Bible study. Okay, so I'm going to ask everyone to join me for meditation. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do first, so you know what we're doing. I'm going to have you first do some breathing, and I'm going to walk you through it. And then we're going to be silent for a little while, so don't be alarmed. But I'm going to just leave a little bit of silence for the group. And then I'm going to ask you to visualize a color, and I'm going to walk you through that as well. Okay, so I like to have my hands on my heart to bring me back to my heart center. So I suggest this for people, but there's no right or wrong way to do any of these techniques that we teach. So whatever's comfortable for you right now. Say that you're holding tension in your shoulders. You might want to just start your breathing with putting pressure on your shoulders. More and more of us are sitting at the computers. You could do that cross-armed. You could be tapping while you're breathing and getting into meditation. Okay, so I'll have you all get comfortable and close your eyes. All right, and I'm gonna have you take a deep breath in, and I'm gonna count to 4, and you're gonna hold that breath. And then I'm gonna ask you to release it. You're gonna blow that breath out for 8 seconds. You're gonna blow out for longer than you took in, okay? So first, deep breath. Take that deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Blow it out. 2, 3, 4. Keep going. 6, 7, 8. You want to fully empty your lungs. Okay, so if you're still holding a little bit in, take 1 breath out. And now a deep breath in. Holding it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Blowing it out for 2, 3, 4. Keep going. 6, 7, 8. And if you notice at the end of your breath that you're still holding a little, just or a quick blow out. All right, one last one. Deep breath in. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it go. 3, 4, 5. Keep going. 6, 7, 8. Okay, now we're just going to be silent. Okay, with your eyes still closed, I want you to think of a color. What's the first color that pops into your mind? And I want you to focus on that color. I want you to see this particular shade of color. I want you to see if there's any variation. Is there a fade to it? Is there a bright light within it? Just really focus on that color. I want you to focus so intently on that color that you would be able to describe it to someone as if they have never seen that color before. Think about what that color reminds you of. Was there something from childhood maybe? A favorite article of clothing? Something in nature? Okay, so now I want you to release that color. And what was, you don't have to share, but think about the first thing that came into your mind after you released that color. Was it a clear thought? Maybe clearer than you've been having throughout the day? Now everyone can open their eyes and join us back together. And Beth, this would probably be a great time for people to maybe be tapping. To connecting relaxation.
Yeah, so remember last week we talked about tapping for anxiety or when we're stressed out, but I also mentioned that it does both things. Tapping also locks in or reinforces that feeling of peace or calm or joy. So like Jen said, as you're coming out of it, if you were, remember I told you we could just tap on that collarbone point right below the collarbone or your fingers. That's just basically sending a message to your brain saying, this is the state that I want to be in, this calm, relaxed state.
And I often will have people, when they're having trouble making a decision or they're in conflict with a family member, to go back to this color meditation. Because what it does is, again, there's countless ways to meditate. There's so many apps out there. In fact, there's so much meditation stuff out there that I think it can get confusing. So I like this one because it's so simple. Everybody can focus on a color. And it gives you, the idea of, okay, now I'm going to sit in silence so my mind has to go blank. Well, again, giving it a specific thing to think about. Then when you release it, oftentimes the answer you're looking for will come. That's one of the great benefits of meditation. I do like to tell people, see if you can have other colors show up, but if you have a favorite and it works for you, again, there's no right or wrong way to do any of it, then always go back to your favorite color. But I like to have a lot of fun with it and see if a different color shows up, a color that I will work with clients and they'll often tell me, I can't believe I thought of that color. It's not even one of my favorites, but it's just the color that came up in the moment. And that almost brings more curiosity to stopping all of the other obsessive and the worry thoughts that you were having, because now you've gotten really curious about a color. So doing something like this too, before you go into Bible study or whatever your quiet time spiritual practice is, again, it just gets you clear. So now you can really focus on what you're reading that day or what your goal was for that day's practice.
Yeah. And like Jen said, if you went online or went to YouTube, there's so much music, songs, different things to meditation. But you could also just, like when we're teaching you to do that slow breathing, you could just count breaths. You could simply count your breath in and out. And it could be really that simple. It doesn't have to be difficult. You could have a saying like breathing in love, breathing out love, or breathing in peace, breathing out stress. Just something to keep our mind. Remember, it's not like we're trying to have a blank mind, but our mind is going to wander. And when me and Jen were talking about the meditation tonight and about our mind, I was telling her when I did this talk for another group, Harvard did a research around how much our brain wanders. And it's over 47% of the time, our mind is either in the past or in the future. So think about that. 50% of the time you are not present in your life. And we don't realize, because we let our minds wander so much, that if you become aware, if you're doing something, like maybe when some of you are sitting here now and your mind's wandering, you're not really listening to what's going on. It's just how our minds work. So it'd be great for you to kind of be aware and say, where is my attention right now? And think about that. Another research they did is if you had 10 thoughts throughout the day, say 5 were neutral, 4 were positive, and 1 is negative, you're going to focus on that negative one. And that's because our brains are wired for stress to protect us. So our brain is going to think that one negative thought is the one that we really need to pick apart and solve. It's just how we are wired. It's for protection, but nowadays, most of the things that we're stressed or anxious about aren't life-threatening. So this meditation, like Jen said, just simply doing it, it can be a few minutes doing the color, counting, whatever works for you. Make it simple, don't overthink it, and yeah, and don't get caught up in the thoughts coming through. Just let them, don't attach to them, let them flow through.
And those negative thoughts, that's our segue into what our next method is, which is around journaling. So journaling is a really great way to get negative thoughts out of our head and onto paper, you know, moving those thoughts that really are not helpful most of the time. And journaling has, again, that's another, lots of science back that journaling is a great way to reduce stress and anxiety. But it's hard to stay consistent with journaling. Oftentimes people don't sit down to journal because they think they don't have time. Again, they think they don't have time. Or they'll do it really well for a week or two. Many of you may have done this. You'll have a great month, and then all of a sudden you just drop off again. And you know it's helpful, but then you just can't get back to it. So one of the tools that we put together was to basically make it go faster. And that is do a list. So you may do so starting with things that are negative, because it is a great way to release a lot of that. So you might do a list of all of the things that upset you that day, or all of the things that aren't working about a certain situation. And so I think writing is better, but you can type or use your phone. So you can write that out. Everything that annoys me about my husband today. Now, I don't want him to find that, right? So I'm going to crumble that up and tear that up, you know, maybe burn it in the sink, but get rid of it. But all of a sudden I got all of that frustration out. I got it out of here. So it's not affecting my relationship. It's not affecting my mindset, my focus for whatever else I need to be doing. I put it all here and released it. Then it's super helpful to write the 10 things I love about him. You should always do a nice counter, but this journal list seems to work really well for people. I really recommend a gratitude list. In my practice, I call it the gratitude 10. So every day, whether it's first thing in the morning or before you go to bed, you know, listing, I know you've heard the gratitude before, but doing it in a list form. This can also be used for the positive. So it's always easy to remember that the hard things that are going on in life bring us anxiety and stress, but also we can have anxiety and stress around things that are really exciting. And Beth and I see this a lot with clients where they've got something so big and they are so talented that they actually end up creating so much anxiety that it holds them back from doing this thing that they really want to do. And so we work with them to help break down those anxiety barriers so they can actually flourish in the way that they're meant to fill God's calling. And so, you know, for them, it might be writing down the 10 ideas or the 10 best ideas, or the 10 ways to make this happen. Or if it already happened, what would it look like? You know, so just doing a list, and so it doesn't just create a block. It actually is coming together. So, you know, we can organize a lot of that for the positive. You know, if you've got any kind of creative endeavor or an event that you're planning, your mind is just like, okay, where do I start? So just getting it out on paper. A lot of you might be list makers anyway. So if you are a natural list maker, doing this in a more concentrated way may really bring you some anxiety relief. It's one of our favorites, for sure.
Yeah, and we talked about last week a lot about our body's energy, because with tapping, I said how we have an energy system that runs through our body. Well, thoughts and feelings have energy too. So think about when you're really angry or upset, you feel that tension in your body. But when you are happy and joyful, you just feel open and ready for the world. And that's like when you're journaling or making the lists and you're doing the gratitude things and the positive things, that's creating an energy about you for to be more creative, to be open to possibilities. So yeah, our words and thoughts are huge with that. And just writing them, like Jen said, I'm big on statistics and research, just as I love reading too. And there's something about writing, like Jen said, to physically make the movement writing instead of, it is easy to do it on a computer phone. If you can write it, it'll be that much more powerful.
So now we're going to switch to what we're going to have you guys work on in your smaller groups tonight is we're going to combine our 6th method, which is the journal lists. We're going to combine that with the 7th, which is really about actively and consciously inputting the positive. We're going to talk next week with Kimberly about guarding our minds from all of the things that come at us. But as we're talking about, you know, building that warrior so that we're ready for that, it's really making sure that we're consciously inputting the positive.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many ways that you guys could choose joy each day or happiness. Pick something that you love to do, make time for it. Maybe it's cooking. Right now in Michigan and New York, it's getting cooler, but for my mom, it's like she loves working in her flower garden or gardening. I spend every day, I start my morning, I tap, of course, I use my tapping, I do a small meditation, and then I go to this beautiful park that's by me with my dog and just walk this park. And just walking can be a form of meditation. I'm at the park, I make sure I just have all my senses where I'm looking at the beautiful trees right now with the fall colors, listening to the birds, just breathing in that fresh air. And that can also be just a form of meditation, walking. And that's something that brings me joy. Just find something. It could be singing, dancing, whatever it is. It's really important for you guys to take time to do that. It doesn't have to take up a big portion of your day. Maybe it's 15 minutes or 20, but it will really impact your mind and that mind fitness that we're talking about.
There's no better antidote to anxiety and stress than joy and play and fun. And we just forget to schedule it. We just forget to put it as in part of our life. So as you guys all get ready here to break into the smaller groups, you know, share what you're already doing that works. Share that with each other at the level that you're comfortable with. But I mean, so many of us right now are looking for new things because what works sometimes, you know, just like physical exercise, what works sometimes will stop working for a while, and you need to try something different. And that's part of, there's just so many things you can do for mindfulness. So really sharing and supporting each other as you guys break into these smaller groups and create lists. And some of you are going to be really loving this if you're a list maker. Create lists of what works for you. Welcome back, everyone. So as we come back, love to hear from some people on what they learned, what was new, what was joyful, what was helpful. Who would like to share?
Well, this is, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, this is Keisha Hamilton, and I had Kurt Richards and Magdalene Lewis in my group. And as we spoke, Kurt shared how he did meditation activities as a child. And he also shared how he would be able to take in a breath, like 4 breaths, and kind of like exhale up to like 20, which was impressive to me. And Kurt also expressed that he has a calendar that helps him do deep breathing at least like 3 times a day.
Nice.
As far as Magdalene Lewis, she incorporated the tapping last week when she's in a doctor's office. So she put that practice into a situation, and walking helps her. She said walking and quiet time, definitely during the pandemic, walking and quiet time really seems to help her handle different situations and stress. As far as myself, I've taken a couple of yoga classes, and learning how to swim, the breathing was like the hardest thing for me. But taking the yoga classes and really having like the calculated breaths and really being aware, the awareness of your breathing helped me a lot with swimming. And tapping, oh yeah, I was tapping the next day after you told us. I was tapping away.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, the doctor's office is like the place to be tapping for sure.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Who else would like to share?
I can share.
I'll
Okay.
share.
Yeah, this is,
I was with
Oh, I
Jackie and Kevin and Shirley. The positive inputs that we looked at with Jackie spoke about enjoying gospel music, reading, also dancing. She does sing in the morning. She tries to looks at the accomplishments of his past, and he uses that to motivate him to move ahead. You know, if I did that then I can most certainly do this now. He also looks at a lot of YouTube movie clips. One of them he mentioned was Rocky Balboa, which
Patricia, you're cutting in and out on us, Patricia, there.
The sermon, also into meditation music, and that being a teacher is
Oh, I think we lost you, Patricia. You're cutting in and out. We're catching only half of it there.
okay, let me talk about my group that included Mercedes and Ed, and Donna, Claire, of course, and Laura. What's interesting is that everyone in this group do give thanks in the morning, each and every morning. That's the first thing that they do. Laura has been cooking, which is something new. One interesting part of her oatmeal cookies that she makes is that she gives it to the mailman, and she finds that she's getting her mail a lot more frequently now. Donna not only gives thanks in the morning, but she goes for a walk in the park, 6 a.m. She does meditation while walking. She does her gratefulness. She does lunchtime meditation also. Claire does reading after giving thanks, does reading. She does the Proverbs, she does Psalms, and she's reading a book called My Grandmother's Hand, which has also helped her with some of the same practices that she's learning now in what we're doing. And she's a person who have her fruits and have her walk. Ed does some exercise after he's had his green juice in the morning and reads his daily word. At this time of the year, other than doing the stationary bike, he does check on the cricket game. Cricket season is on, and he pays attention to his cricket. And that's it with all this. Myself, I do read the Proverbs. I've been doing it. I love that you have 30 chapters, so I read a chapter a day. And I do read the commentaries by other writers as it relates to Proverbs and what insights they give me from Proverbs. I have shared that I wish I had started to read Proverbs when I was younger. I think I'd have been a better parent because it has some great great counsels to give.
Yeah.
But most people have it as part, what positive things, they have it as part of their routine already.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much about needing to work it into their routine. I think I'm the only one that talked about the phone calls, that I need to make more phone calls. I do email lots of people on a daily basis. Might be prayers, it might be good wishes, maybe a number of things, but I think I would like to do more phone calls.
Yeah.
So that I've got to work into my routine.
Yeah, it's true. I'm thinking about a friend of mine. She always says we shouldn't have to put it on the schedule. We should just call each other like we did 10 years ago. Well, it doesn't work that way. So let's just put it on the schedule because it does. It just really, you know, lifts us up when we have those great conversations. Yeah. Who else would like to share? Thank you. Thank you, by the way. Who else would like to share?
I'll share.
Thank you.
So in my group, we had Vanette Anderson, Stephanie St. Clair, Kimberly Fitton, and Monique Antoine. I hope I'm pronouncing everyone's name correctly. And me, of course. And a lot of us, I learned, like to walk. Walking is extremely comforting to, I think just about everyone said they like to walk. Kimberly is in love with the fall. And loves, if there's a place somewhere on this earth where it's fall foliage all year round, she would love that. And she also said that because she works in a high school, she has access to the track, and she's able to incorporate that into her day as she needs to deal with different situations that come up, the different challenges. Stephanie, as many of us know, loves to dance. She also likes to walk, but she especially loves to dance. And she dances all the time. So she doesn't even, for her, it's not even something that she needs to put on her calendar. But with the things that are going on now and not being able to do the group exercises that she used to do, so now she's making an effort to join in to some other group exercises virtually. Monique also likes to walk, preferably in the morning. And but because it kind of interferes with her work schedule, then she ends up doing that after work. And Vanette also likes to walk and listen to music and garden. And she's not a morning person, so for her, it's gonna be in the evening for her as a comforting exercise. And she said she doesn't need any calendar as long as the weather permits. She's out there. And I also like to walk in the morning. And I find that if I don't put it on my calendar, I start doing other things, and the next thing I know, I got to get started with work. And I like to read fiction. I read a lot, but reading fiction is something that's a little bit of a happy place for me.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Who else would like to share?
This is Lola, and in our group we have
Mrs. O'Connor.
No, sorry. I think you can go ahead, Lola.
Okay. So in our group we had Kim and Judy, and there was someone on the phone who I guess did not unmute, but I guess was listening. And so Judy and Kim, it was amazing. They seemed to do the same thing. They like to walk. Full disclosure, I'm not a walker. But Judy, they pretty much said they mirrored each other. They like to walk. They like to have some solitude and spend time with friends, and Judy said she'd like to spend some time just to contemplate on the goodness of God. So, and I said, I'm not a talker, but if anybody knows me, they know it's not true. And I said, well, I like music. And I grew up in the 60s, so I like Mick Jagger. So I was saying, that there's a song that I like. It's called Start Me Up and I'll Never Stop. So, and that you get going. You think about something. So although, so we all had our different likenesses, but I just felt like the odd man out. I don't walk. It tells you I don't exercise. But anyway, we talked about, we talked about, what we learned last week, and that we incorporated some of that. And we got to talking about meditation. And we all said that we were trying to focus on a color, and there were just too many colors around. So we could not, but we said that, we would try to use the techniques that you taught us today, trying to clear out the noise. And because we all said that you're trying to meditate, you're thinking about so many things. So I said, well, use the technique to just get the noise to pass through, and we will try to write that we all weren't writing, journaling people, but it might help, we said. And so we thought that, we could use the techniques, that we learned. Well, didn't get to that question to ask what brought us joy, because I believe the walking brought them joy. Mick Jagger brings me joy. But we feel that, we've learned techniques that, and we know that it's not going to happen just right away, but with practice, then you achieve mastery.
Exactly. That's beautiful. And I think all of us are happy to be reminded of that song, because it really is one that can get us into joy. I believe Barbara wants to share next. Barbara?
Oh, yes, thank you. So my group was made up of Mrs. O'Connor, Sister Denise, Sister Ollie, Sister Angela, and myself. So we had 5 things that were shared in terms of what each does for relaxation. Denise likes music. She likes certain Bible verses. She does her meditation, scriptures, and she talks about meditation, and she also incorporates it in her job. She does it with her patients. She says oftentimes she's so good at it that she has to wake the patients up. So it really works. Yes. And she does like music as well, and makes time for our scripture reading or journaling. Towards the end of the day, she kind of winds down. Mrs. O'Connor, her thing is charade, and she tries to do it at least once per month to kind of give her a chance to just de-stress, act silly, act out, get some laughter in. She likes to sing as well, sing to herself. One of her favorites, You Are My Sunshine, which she has sung to her children when they were small. So she also spends time on her bike, and the bike kind of clears her head. And she even will do her conference call sometimes from the bike, because it gives her that space, and that's a daily activity. Sister Ollie loves to do her crossword puzzle. That's a daily routine. She likes to read, loves nature walk, see the butterflies. She also loves music or jazz, and crossword puzzle is part of her daily routine. Sister Angela exercises. She has a schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She likes to play games on her phone. She likes music, particularly reggae music. Yes. And did I cover everyone? So I speak now for myself. I did Denise, Marsha, Angela. Okay, so for myself, I am also a walker. I do prayer walking. I also share that my husband collects old music, so I like to dance to the old 60s and 70s music. I like to keep a song in my heart as well. What else? I do prayer walk. I like to do prayer walk, and I also like to do walks to get ideas about my gardens, look at other people's gardens. I like to do stuff like that. And meditation, well, I practice that with my students, especially before an exam, kind of help them unwind. And yes, we do recognize the scientific impact that meditation actually does in terms of memory retention, and even enhance performance on their exams. Yes, and faculty has their own group too, their meditation group as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. Gosh, I'd love to hear that. don't you, Beth, like doing a meditation before exams? Because we hear so much from students who will study and study, and then they get to the exam and everything's blank because, again, the blood's left the forebrain. And so, yeah, that's just wonderful that you guys do that. Who else would like to share?
So in our group, we had Patrick O'Connor and Tanisha Campbell, and there were two phone persons who were there with us. And so for Tanisha, she enjoys the 91st Psalm that is very comforting. Some of the imagery, the shield, buckler, and assist brings joy. She also spoke about talking and motivating others. And I just found this personally encouraging, just saying good morning to others and seeing a response in others, that brings her joy. Thought that was really good. Pastor O'Connor talked about encouraging others and enjoying seeing the success in others, seeing others succeed. Music was also there for all of us, and found out that I like movies, in particular Blazing Saddles, and found out that we're all morning persons, and so we enjoy doing whatever we're going to do in the mornings, and that there were some Bible stories or characters that we related to. Pastor O'Connor talked about, I had his list, not Abraham, no, Abraham was Tanisha's, how encouraging it is to see Abraham's obedience to God and willingness to go. For Pastor O'Connor, it was Moses and Jacob, and for me, it was Peter. And so that's our grouping.
Beautiful, thank you. Thank you. One of the things that stood out too when you mentioned seeing how other people react to the hellos, or just, it sounds like we've got a few educators, and it's often said that when you're about to public speak, that one of the things you can do is to mentally think of the spotlight going on to your audience, whatever that message is that you want for them to hear. Thinking about your personal relationships, what you want for others, can oftentimes really get you out of your head, your excessive worry. Sometimes we will just obsess about how we're going to talk to a loved one or approach a subject, and our brain will just keep going on. And if we can just focus on the other, oftentimes we can really reduce that anxiety to then hopefully have a really great conversation, or at least a better one if it's rooted in conflict. Who else would like to share? Anyone else?
I got cut off, so I'm going to
Yes.
quickly try to go through this again.
Sounds good, Patricia.
Right. Can you guys hear me?
It's better this time, so.
All right. Let me quickly do this. I had Shirley Ali. One of the positive things is being in a peaceful mood, listening to words, especially through music. One of the songs that gets to her is What a Friend We Have in Jesus, looking deeper into the words, scriptures, using mantras, intentionally and purposely puts her in a good frame of mind. Back in March to the present, is involved with the prayer line, and it's for 1 hour each day, and it is just giving her a feeling of positiveness, of just talking with people from all over, and just the results of helping people feel better. And that's it. I said Kevin, teacher, accomplishments of being motivated, and Jackie was reading, music, dancing, in myself. What I do is with my students, I also myself and working on my breathing, and I walk.
Beautiful. And yes, we heard that clearly that time, so perfect. Great. Anybody else? Any questions? Just a few minutes left here. Anything anybody wants to share or ask? Okay. Well, I will give it back to the team.
Just one question. Then, is there? You said there's no right way of doing any of these meditations. Is there? I guess, is there like a minimum time of something that you might get some, optimal way of doing it? A minute, 30 seconds? Is there, so yeah, are there any minimal times of doing that? I know, so that's the question that as we are incorporating these practices that, I said, let me at least try it for 30 seconds. I don't know, or 30 seconds may not be enough to even begin to start. So is there any minimum kind of just to delve?
It's a great question.
Put my toe in the water.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to let Beth take it first.
Yeah, so like you said, put a toe in the water. So I say, even if it is only a minute, if people are like, I was telling Jen before we started this, I did it to one group and I had them, I think it was quiet for 3 minutes. And when we got done, a couple of them said it was brutal. They said it was horrible. And I was kind of surprised, like, what was so horrible? They said it was so hard to keep still and quiet for that time because they're so used to moving and multitasking and doing these things. So like Lola, I think, brought up saying that it's not going to happen overnight and we're retraining our brain. So if it's for people who have never done it and they're just dipping the toe in, even if you did it for 1 minute, set your phone timer for 1 minute and just did the breathing and the counting the breaths, like Lola said, it's hard to, our minds are going to wander. So if you don't want to do the color thing, just breathing in 1, breathing out 2, just counting, or saying breathing in peace, breathing out peace, whatever works for you. And again, don't get caught up if our mind's running. That's okay. Let the thoughts come in and go. But it's not necessarily a set time. It's just the more you do it, it's going to be easier and it will be more enjoyable. So then you might think, I'll start with a minute and maybe that'll move up to 5 minutes. I do mine each morning. It's usually only around 10 minutes. That's what I do. I use 10 minutes. So there's not really a right or wrong. Just get started. Just have some compassion for yourself and realize that when you first start, it may seem uncomfortable or hard to shut the mind down, but it will get easier as you go.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. Know that it's going to always change. I mean, all of this, just like our physical exercise, our mental exercise changes with our life. So I plan for 20 minutes. That's what works for me. I can't do more than 20 minutes of meditation. Less in the morning doesn't give me, I like to be really centered because I'm holding space for others, this mental wellness. So I look at it as part of my job to make sure I get those 20 minutes in. But there are some days that I could have sat there and it wouldn't have mattered because my mind never once shut off. Like, it's just like, wow, that was really, was that even worth it? But it was. And then there's days where I feel like I've really centered in a strong way and had just really great moments of clarity. So every single day is different. So I just want to add that, be gentle with yourselves on whatever you're trying to build into practice. But again, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Yeah.
Is there a way to speak to men about journaling?
Well, tell me more about that question.
I see a lot of women with their journal. It feels normal, feels natural. When I try to talk to men about journaling, you just get a reaction as if that's not cool.
Fair. That's why, that's one of the reasons. So I would say that what I see in my practice is I definitely see that as well. But I also see that with folks that are under 30 who have never really haven't done a lot of paper and pen kind of work, even though they can obviously journal on their phone, on a computer. But I get that a lot too. Journaling's not cool for that age group, because I don't actually have the answer to why, but they definitely push back on me a lot, which was one of the reasons that we really looked and developed the list making, just to try to see if that would help show that when you're putting together just how well it clears the mind and organizes the mind. So specifically for men or people who are pushing back is to ask them to maybe look at it more like project planning. So think about something they're wanting to accomplish in their life and start to build it in writing, like what it would look like. So if this goal that I have is already accomplished, what will it look like? What will it feel like? And really mapping that out. So sometimes it's just a change of language. So journal, diary may feel feminine. So instead, mapping that out, getting that out, project planning, writing, it will create that same benefit and bring that writing and organizing of our thoughts into play, but maybe just some different language. Do you have anything to add, Beth?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's that word. When you go journaling, I get the same thing. The guys will be like, I'm not going to journal. So I never use the word journaling at all. With them, I just say literally, like you said, if you a lot of people have heard another term, a lot on the internet is like brain dumping or just getting things out. So we used the list, but if you could just, like Jen said, come across with different language and making a list or writing it down, it's just one way to get it out of your head. If we let the thoughts keep going, they grow, they get bigger, but if you can put it down on paper, they can let them go. So yeah, I think it's just whatever words they can hear, but usually journaling and diary, that won't work.
May I jump in here?
Yeah.
I'm a writer, so this issue concerns me. I think that the younger age group is in danger of losing the ability to communicate because of social media. They're not learning how to use punctuation, and therefore they're not a skilled communicating, period, and they're losing the ability to make beauty with words, because punctuation, for instance, permits making rhythm and making beauty with composition. And so it's a real challenge for the society in general to encourage the young people, or to train. It'll take retraining of writing so that young people have that outlet. In fact, that's a term that I use for myself. In fact, I had to learn it in English because I learned it first in French, soupape de sûreté, safety valve. That's the image that helps me. And writing is a safety valve. And I know that I can make beauty in the process, which is of interest to me. So I don't use journaling either, but I write regularly, and that helps me it gives me a distraction, and it allows me another way to make beauty in the world, because that's important to me.
That's an excellent point too. And the other thing that punctuation does is it brings in that, you mentioned the word rhythm, but also that, the period is the pause. And you're right, a lot of the young people are missing those pauses. The pauses are uncomfortable for them. One of the things that I do with kids when I'm working with them in anxiety is we work on poetry. So we'll write a poem in their session. And the idea there is both building in the language, but also making sure that they understand that, because what happens with kids is they often think that it's just them, they're in it alone. And so the poetry connects them to nature, connects them to their loved ones, and shows them that they're not all alone, because we know that that's why we're getting a higher suicide rate, is because oftentimes they feel alone. So that's one of the tools that we're using is writing. Again, we could dive into details of all kinds of things that we do, but just an excellent point. Anytime we can get kids writing, I think it's really helpful.
Thanks.
I want to be really conscious of time, so I'm going to pass it back over to the team.
Okay, so let's applaud Jennifer and Beth again for a really tremendous night. And let's say thank you to all our wonderful facilitators who made themselves available after a long day to usher us into discussing the topic. Let's applaud the facilitators. And Panya, who is faithfully coordinating this, we want to say thank you. As I close, this morning I had a meeting with some business leaders who were not this morning, yesterday morning, and one of the real nice compliments, one of them had seen Vulnerable to Victorious, and they were talking about the stress that their staff was under, and they're recommending to people that they go on our website and view last week's session and this week's session. And so I think those of us on the call have the opportunity to share the information. If people won't come on now, it's available on our website the next days so that you can help somebody as we journey through these anxious times. I want to thank everyone. Next week we have Jennifer, Beth, and we have Kimberly Fitton, and it's going to be a real exciting and blowout session. So please invite somebody to join us. Have a good night, and God bless you. And may the peace of the Lord be with you and with your loved ones. Amen.